Good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones. Welcome in to On the Hunt, where we are going on the hunt with Harley Owens tonight. My goodness, I had a hard time getting my head put together tonight, okay? Because I know we just had something pretty wild that happened. And so I wanted to address it, and I want to get it out of the way so that we don't focus on it tonight, okay? And yes, President Trump had an assassination attempt on his life today, and that was pretty wild, pretty devastating. And I wanted to acknowledge that, and to send my prayers, my condolences to people who lost their families today, or people from their families. And it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a day that I will never forget. Okay, and so I just wanted to acknowledge it. I know everybody comes here. We come here to get away from the world for an hour or two, okay, and but this was kind of a big deal, okay. And when I tell you guys to stay safe out there, to keep your head on a swivel, I mean it, okay. I mean it. I want everybody to stay safe out there. We live in a very dangerous world. It's just the way it is right now. It's very dangerous, and protect yourselves, okay. Protect yourselves, and yes, keep your heads on a swivel, all right, or your head. I hope y'all don't have multiple heads, all right. Some of you might, I don't know. All right, but anyways, but he is okay, from what I understand, and we're just gonna move forward from here, y'all. Okay, and so we have a fantastic show tonight. I do know this. A couple of my mods are down at the Full Disclosure Now conference down in Florida already. So I think Maureen and Amy are going to be in Florida. I'm not sure if they're going to be here tonight. I'm going to be down there next week, okay? In about 2 days, I'll be down there. I'm giving a presentation on Wednesday, and I'm speaking on a panel Wednesday night, okay? So y'all come see me. If you guys would like to come down there too, I do believe that you can probably still buy tickets, I'm sure. And if you do buy tickets, use my discount code, okay? FDNC Jessica 20 for general tickets, and FDNC Jessica 50 for VIP access. And there's special dinners every night. It's going to be a really fun time. And I know there's a lot of people already down there. Go to fulldisclosuremovement.org. That's where you can get all the information on that. All right. But yep. Hopefully next time y'all see me, I will have a tan. Okay. I'm going to have a tan. And we'll have hung out with a lot of really cool people and given a really great presentation. And I can't wait to tell you all about it. All right. Okay, well, let's get to our show. Okay, wait, first, if you guys want to join my Patreon, please do. It's the Cryptid Huntress on Patreon. And also, I have a shop. I'm giving out free merch with every purchase. You get Cryptid Huntress merch at War Woman Goods on Etsy. Okay, so y'all go hit it up if you get a chance. And everything's on sale. And I appreciate all your support. Okay, all right, now let's get to our show, because I got Harley in the studio. I see him in there. I didn't get a chance to say hey to him before the show, but we're going to chop it up tonight, y'all. I've been waiting to hang out with Harley for a minute now. And he is also a boots on the ground field researcher like myself. He's based out of Tennessee. Okay, so let me read you a little blurb about Harley before I bring him out. Okay, Harley is an avid outdoorsman, a power lineman, and a Bigfoot researcher from East Tennessee. From non-believer and skeptic until his first encounter on September 23rd of 2020, the encounter shattered his view of the world. After this encounter he stopped hunting for 3 years until he mustered up what he thought was fear of these creatures. Like, yeah, this is wild. He's got some really cool stories, y'all, and some good evidence too. On Thanksgiving Day of 2023, he went out deer hunting and overcame the fear and decided to start looking for answers to his questions. In December of 2023, he started his research. He went down the rabbit hole thinking these things were ancient human or Gigantopithecus. He's had 3 more Bigfoot encounters and 2 Dogman encounters. And a huge inspiration for his work was Scott Carpenter. He utilizes that back camera. We're going to talk about that tonight, the back camera. So he's getting a shot while he's walking away. And I think that is super innovative, y'all. So he's getting some really good evidence doing that way. But he came to the conclusion, just like Scott, that Bigfoot and Dogman are Nephilim type creatures. Okay, so we'll talk about that tonight too, that have survived our times. And he wants to get the awareness out that for those that don't know the true reality of these cryptids. He has a Facebook group and a YouTube channel called Bigfoot Reports and Data. So you guys go join his group, subscribe to his YouTube channel, and please help me welcome to the show, On the Hunt, Harley Owens.
Oh man, it's been a long time coming. I'm glad to be here.
Hey Harley, thank you for being here. I'm sorry I didn't get to talk to you before the show started.
Well, it's all right. I think it was on my end. I had to turn my phone off and turn it back on, but we're rolling now, so I'm super excited. I'm super blessed to be here and chat with you, and I'm looking forward to just sharing with you and fellowshipping, and and just trying to let those know, if there's somebody that's watching tonight and they're not sure, I'm just here to talk from my personal experiences, and from what I've learned these past 7 months. And trust me, I've learned a lot and I've seen a lot, because the woods is, my second home. I'm out in God's country, and it's just, it's amazing. And I'm super blessed to do what I do. And, I kind of picked up the torch for Scott, so to speak.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. And you're kind of new at it in a way, because you've been doing like real research, but you've been doing some pretty intense boots on the ground field research. Listen, you're my people, okay? Because I love me some good boots on the ground field research. And I've been doing it since 2011. So I've been doing it for a little while, and I didn't go public for like 10 years, okay, on my research, because back then it wasn't as widely accepted to be out in the field chasing a big old monkey around the woods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now it's a little bit cooler, and people are more into it, and people are more accepting of it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I applaud you for putting your evidence and your adventures out there for other people to see. That's a big deal.
Exactly. Yes. I know some people are not physically able, they may be hurt, they may be sick, and whatnot. And I'm just kind of doing it for them. I think a lot about others before myself. And, and that's pretty much for those that are interested in a phenomenon, but are not physically capable to be able to do so. You know what I mean?
I mean, I kind of take that for granted sometimes, because people do live vicariously through us. Mm-hmm. And to me, I just got goosebumps when I said that for some reason. I don't know why, but I guess because it kind of does resonate with a lot of people. I take that for granted sometimes, because I'm out there just living it up, and I'm not saying like it's a glamorous life.
I do too. I do too. But and I'm just, every time I post a video or something, it's for those that aren't able to be out there and enjoy it. Whether they be sick or physically not able to.
Exactly. Yes. So a lot of people get to tune in, and I just went on a dogman hunt last week, and I was down in Alabama. Drewski. Yeah, I was with him and his crew, and we really get we get deep in the woods, and we go out there where there's no running back to the car if something happens.
Exactly right. It's a long walk back to the vehicle.
Yes. Well, especially in the middle of the night. Okay. So when it's dark, I did not know where I was going. Yes, we have like orange tape that we can kind of put up and stuff, like markers. But in the middle of the night, if let's just say a dog man is chasing me, I was sleeping in a hammock set up, I was a burrito. Okay. I was a dog man burrito. But, let's just say like something came up in our camp, and there was like a pack or something of Bigfoot.
Oh, wow.
And there weren't, it didn't happen like that. But let's just say it did. Like, you have to hunker down and be prepared to defend yourself.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it can change in an instant. All it takes is something to set them off, and they're on you.
That's right. Okay, so tell me about your first experience with a Bigfoot, and like, it wasn't that long ago, right? Just a couple of years ago?
It was 2020, yes, September 23rd, 2020. So a little backstory behind that encounter. Before I was a lineman, I wanted it to be different from what my dad did, because my dad's a lineman. So I didn't want to follow in Dad's footsteps. I wanted to do something different. So my dad's neighbor had an auction company. So I decided to go work for him. We went to sawmills and took apart sawmills and auctioned all the equipment and stuff off. So a week prior to this encounter, We stayed up. I stayed up there for 2 weeks. So we go up there and we're talking to the owner of this place, and he's he's a little old timer. He's selling out and going to get a bunch of money from this place. He's all excited. So we're talking with him, and he was telling us to keep an eye out on this bear that was rummaging around through the trash. I was like, was he a pretty good sized bear? He said, yeah, he's a pretty good sized bear. But what he said next stuck with me. He said, there's far worse things in the woods than him. And I was just like, well, what's he talking about? Black Panther? Because, I've heard the stories of those always growing up, and then I heard the fairy tales of the Bigfoot every now and then. I was like, I was believing in a Black Panther more than I was anything else. So I just kind of brushed it off in the back of my mind. So going on the rest of the week there, we just categorizing everything, number and all the stuff, and getting everything ready for the sale on Saturday. So auction came up on a Saturday. Sale was over. My boss came up to me. He said, you want to stay up here another week and help people load stuff that they bought? And I was like, yeah, I don't care to. He said, all right, I'm going to send these other guys on down the road. I think it was Virginia or somewhere. I can't remember right off the top of my head. But so I stayed up there, and Sunday came around, and I went out, and I wasn't going to sit in a hotel all day because it was raining. I was like, I can go out here and work and get stuff ready to go, so maybe I can get out of here a few days earlier. So I go out there, and I get done doing what I'm doing, what I can do, because some of the stuff we had to bring cranes in to take out, so I was only able to do so much. So I get everything done and organized, and I go walking around a wood line. And there was a trackway that caught my attention in the mud. And there's 3 tracks that I could actually make out really good. And I took pictures of them, and I was like, somebody's walking around out here barefoot, and they're clearly bigger than me. I mean, I'm 6'6", and I have a size 12 boot. And I mean, they were a good 2-3 inches longer than my foot. And I was like, I jokingly said, that's Bigfoot. Because at this point, I did not believe in these creatures. It was the last thing on my mind. So, going on Monday, nothing didn't happen. Tuesday, nothing happened. But Wednesday, September 20th, 2020, that was the day that changed my life, literally forever. So, I go out there that morning, and there was a guy already waiting for me. So, I had to unlock this top gate up by the main road. And then I had to go down into this holler, and I had another gate to open. So this guy was already there waiting on me. I kind of felt bad. I mean, I told him what time I was going to open the gates, which was 7:00 in the morning. So I get him down there, and he only had like 3 pallets that I had to load up. So I popped on the skid steer, and I put the forks through the pallet, and I put them on his trailer, and he went on about his day. Well, I was just sitting there in that skid steer the rest of the day, and about 1:30 came around. I started to get hungry. I could only play games on my phone. I didn't have no service down in that holler. So I go over to the service truck in the cooler, grab a Coca-Cola and a peanut butter sandwich out of the cooler. Well, all of a sudden I hear a growlish grunt. I'm just like, well, that's off, because I never heard a sound like that before. I mean, I was just 20 years old at the time, but yet I was hunting and fishing all the time, and I had never heard a sound like that. And I was like, that's probably that bear. Well, I heard it again, and I looked up on this cliff face, and I seen something black moving, and I was just like, that's that bear. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I just seen something black moving, and I said, that's a bear. Well, I looked back down, and I looked back up, and I seen it leaning out looking at me, and I instantly knew what it was, and it was looking at me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's a Bigfoot. These things are real. People aren't crazy. And the only thing I knew how to do was take a photograph of it. And the weirdest thing happened after I took a photograph of this creature. I had a brand new iPhone 8 Plus at this time. And I had like 70-something% battery, and it just completely shut off. And I didn't know what was going to happen, because this thing was right there. And if it wanted to, it kind of came down off that cliff face, came around, done whatever, and got me. But this thing just took off on back up further up the mountain, and I could not believe it. And I was trying to get the phone to come back on. I tried everything in the world. I plugged it up because I thought it could have just randomly died. So I sat in the truck, and I sat there waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally it came back on, and I looked, and I had a picture of this thing, and You know, this picture, I know people's been sharing this picture around everywhere, but it's literally, he's up on this cliff face and he's like leaning out looking at me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've got a picture of this thing. Well, later on that evening, I stayed around a little later, and I was on guard, very much on guard, because I didn't know what to do. So I'm sitting there, then these things start hollering. And that night I recorded one set of audio. It was over a minute long, and it was unlike anything I had ever heard. I had people tell me it was elk. I've had people tell me it's coon dogs. Everything other than what it was. So the Thursday came around. I'm back out there, and I find another trackway that was fresh, where this thing had came down from the ridge that it was on, and came across this dried up creek bed and into the sawmill area. And like I said, I'm 6'6". I got a 12-inch boot, and I've got a videos up on my YouTube channel and stuff. And the stride, I'm 6'6", and I cannot do the stride that was in between each track. It was unbelievable. And then later on Thursday evening, I recorded 2 more sets of audio that were 15 minutes apart. They were further off sets of vocalizations, and I've actually had that audio analyzed. The creatures that were vocalizing, their frequencies were around 250 hertz to 2000 hertz. So, I mean, it was unlike anything I have ever heard. So Friday came around. I was leaving, so I went to a drive-in diner to try and get some answers, which, I mean, I was pretty firm on what I had seen. You know, it was a Bigfoot. So I go to this drive-in called Robo's, and I get me a bite to eat, and I see some old timers sitting at this table. I'm like, well, if anybody's going to know, it's these old fellers right here. So I just go over and I strike up conversation. And I'm like, y'all ever heard anything or seen anything weird in these mountains? They just kind of looked at each other and they looked at me and they said, what'd you see? I said this, and I showed them the picture of the creature, and I showed them the tracks and the videos of the tracks, and I let them listen to the sounds, and they just got real quiet. And one of them spoke up and said, well, that's a devil monkey. And I was like, a devil monkey? And I said, so that's Bigfoot? They said, yeah, devil monkey, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, mountain giant. It's all the same thing, wood booger. And I was just like, okay, that was all I needed. So, and after that, I stopped everything. I stopped hunting. I stopped fishing for 3 years. And that was rough, because I grew up hunting and fishing, and man, it was so hard not to go back out in the woods.
Yeah, that's okay. It wasn't surprising to you that those older gentlemen were like, oh, it's wood boogers, no big deal. Wasn't surprising.
Yeah, it was like, holy crap, they know about these things, because I mean, they just looked at each other, and then that one told me, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, had they had personal encounters with any of the Bigfoots up there?
I didn't even think to ask them.
Didn't ask.
I didn't. That was the last thing on my mind. I was asked the question, and I was just ready to get out of there and be home. But little did I know, when I got home, I would face so much ridicule by my family and my friends. And so I just stuffed it under the rug for 3 years. Until August, I was a guest on Jeremiah Byron from Bigfoot Society, and then I was like, man, this felt good, and I was a guest on some other podcasts, and Thanksgiving come around, and I was like, well, I'm gonna go deer hunting. I went, and I was like, you know what, I can do this. I can go out and look for these things. Well, it's more than what I bargained for. I say that much.
Yeah, you always get more than you bargain for. Honestly, a lot, not always, but when you do have an encounter with a cryptid of any kind, especially Bigfoot or Dogman, it's always more than you expect. It's more than you buy. It's more than you, yeah, than you. I can't get my words out tonight. It's more than you can bite off usually, because it's kind of jarring, just like that experience you had. When you're not expecting it, it can be traumatic. Actually,
well, it's something that's not supposed to exist when it does.
Right, exactly. That's why when people come in and they watch our shows, a lot of people come here to get validation for their experiences.
Yes,
And so
exactly.
that's kind of what we're giving people is validation for what they've been through, because we've experienced this kind of stuff
Yes,
before.
exactly right. And that's a big thing, and so many people have just talked to me about their experiences and encounters. And I'm like, you're not alone. You know, you can go on a podcast and remain anonymous, tell your story. They don't have to know your name and all that stuff. I mean, just give a little hint about where you're from and share your experience. But I did it, for just me. I don't care if people know my name or not. I mean, and then now as I'm going along with what I'm doing, I'm like, people, if somebody wants to reach out to me, they can reach out. So then I've created my Facebook group, and it took off. I could not believe it. I was maybe expecting 500 members, but lo and behold, I've got almost 4,400 members now, which I'm super grateful for that. It's a really good community that I've built, and I'm just thankful and blessed for that. YouTube was the last thing on my mind starting, but hey, I'm getting there. I don't have all the fancy tech to do it, but I'm getting there slowly but surely.
Okay. Oh yeah. Well, it takes a while to get everything going and up and running, but that's a lot of Facebook members in your group. That's a lot.
Yeah,
I think I had, yeah, I had my YouTube channel for a while before I went public with my Bigfoot research. I had my channel for something different. And it took me a while. I know Marco's in the chat. I know Marco's in here. He was really cheerleading me to 100 subscribers. I'll never forget that. So thank you, Marco. He's one of my moderators now. But I remember him cheering me on to 100. And he was like, "You're gonna do it, Jessica. You're gonna get 100." And so
Well, that's
now,
everybody. That was everybody in my Facebook group. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. And I'm like, yeah, I've done past it.
oh yeah, absolutely. Well, people are really interested in this, and a lot of more people are having experiences today than I think than ever before. To be honest with you, because maybe it's just because, like we say, like it's more accepting now, and people are more comfortable talking about it. But up in Tennessee, I have several good friends that are cryptid field researchers from Tennessee, and Drewski is one of them. And but we have done a couple of different investigations together. One of them was last year up in Tennessee, actually, in a place called Whitleyville, and it's like in the center of Tennessee, like very tippy top north part of Tennessee.
Oh,
And
okay.
we had not only Bigfoot to look for, but we were looking for skinwalkers, dogmen.
Oh,
There was all sorts of stuff going on up there. So
oh,
Tennessee is
boy.
ripe with a lot of cryptids.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely. Dogman was the last thing on my mind, but I was lucky enough to have a Bigfoot encounter first, because I'm going to be honest. If I had a Dogman encounter first, I wouldn't be doing this.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. Boo the Beagle, by the way, thank you for that super sticker. I appreciate you. I started off as a Bigfoot field researcher, and I got to say, if I had started off seeing dogmen first, I might not be where I am today either. Okay, because
Exactly.
they just seem to be a little more ominous, and
Yes.
you hear scary stories about them.
There's nothing good that comes out of those. I mean, we'll get into this a little bit later, but
Okay.
when you look into a dog man's eyes, it's nothing. It's emptiness. It's blank. There's no remorse there or nothing. It's something that wants to kill you. But when you look into a Bigfoot's eyes, there's a soul there. There's intelligence. Something that understands what we are. And there's a big difference in the two, character wise.
Yeah. There's more of a humanistic type of feel when it comes to the Bigfoots. And
Exactly
some people
right.
say they're just, I mean, I like to think that they're just like a gigantic, big, hairy human kind of. I mean, because they look very human in the
Yes.
face. Now, the body is covered in hair, and there's a lot of differences from Bigfoots and humans, but in general, it's pretty human, especially Patty, from the Patterson Gimlin film. She
Yes,
looks very
absolutely.
human-like, but very
Yeah.
hairy.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they're literally just a giant human, and from where, I used to think, maybe they were like an ancient human or a Gigantopithecus, but when I started looking into it more, and, it helped me get closer to God, because, I mean, I believed in God and all that stuff, but I started reading more scripture trying to find answers for all this stuff, and I was like, I found three possible outcomes of what they could be. I thought Cain, because Cain was cursed to be a restless wanderer of the earth. I thought maybe they could be descendants of Cain. Well, then I looked into Enoch, and then I was like, well, there were giants that were red haired, and I was like, well, not all there's different colored haired Bigfoot, so. And I was like, Nephilim is something. And then, like, when I seen Scott's videos and stuff, and I was like, yep. And then I was like, because I just wanted that validation for myself. I took Scott's word for it, but then, that's the scripture, I read back through it, and I was like, yeah, that's got to be it. Because, the fallen angels, gene manipulation, they did not just procreate with human women, they procreated with animals as well. And, that's how all this manipulation and stuff are resulting in these different creatures.
Oh my gosh, that's such an interesting view on that. And I think that it is really fascinating and important to see the aspects that align with the Bible and things that have been written in the scripture and stuff with some of what's going on, especially considering that we could very potentially be in what was considered to be the end times, right?
Yes, exactly right. And in the end times, God said he wasn't going to flood the earth. It'll be in fire. But I think before this fire, the beast and the beast of the earth will come out, which would be Leviathan and all these other creatures, the Bigfoot, Dogman, Mothman, whatever potentially else there could be out there.
Oh, there's a lot of stuff out there. I've experienced so much high strangeness, and so I know that Tennessee does hold a lot of high strangeness. Now, at some point, you encountered a Dogman too, and you also were. Now, did you get the Dogman footage? Like, I know I have a picture. You actually sent me a picture, and I have it uploaded if you want to show it tonight.
Yeah, I got a picture of one. That was my second experience with one, although I never seen it. My daughters, which I mean, they're my stepdaughters, but they're my daughters. I don't see them any other way. I love my girls to death, but their dad was with me, and we went turkey hunting 20 minutes from downtown Knoxville on the Forks of the River Wildlife Management Area. So we go out there turkey hunting, and we get out there about 4:30 in the morning. So we wait for the sun to start to come up a little bit, and we start hitting the trail. Well, right before the sun comes up, we hit the owl call. We had two toms gobble further off in the distance. So we're still walking along on this trail. Well, the sun came up, and they shut up. I told them, I was like, well, they're probably strutted out in the field with the hens. So we go looking for these fields. We got our phones out, and we're looking for the map and seeing which way we need to go. So we're working our way back along out through there, and we get out to these big fields, and we're looking around, and we just said, heck with it. They've shut up. There ain't no sense in trying to walk all over this place and try to find them. So we look for a trail that takes us back to the vehicle. So we leave these big fields, and there's a building that the WMA has that has their tractors and stuff like that for mowing the fields. We go in the woods right behind that building, and there's an old creek bed that runs from the top of the ridge. So we're walking up this creek bed, and like almost instantly, right at like not even 2 or 3 minutes after getting into the woods, I knew something was following us because I was behind him, and I heard something keeping pace with me, and I was just like, okay, this is going to be really interesting. So I wasn't going to say anything until he heard it, because I know I've had experiences, and I've seen some stuff, and he knows that I do this, and he's open, he believes, but he's never seen anything. And so we're hiking up this creek bed, and we get up out of the creek bed, and he said, there's something following us. I said, yeah, it's been following us for about 20 minutes now. And that was at 9:35 in the morning. And so I turned dead around, and I started taking some pictures behind me. And I took this picture at 9:36 a.m. And in that creek bed standing where we came out of, where in the picture you can see a fallen tree, and we had to climb up out of the creek bed and climb over that tree that was laying there. You can see there's something standing in that creek bed, and it looks like a giant pit bull. I mean, I could not believe it. I mean, I didn't even look until I got home. Yeah, he dropped me off at home, and I got to looking through the pictures that I took, and I was amazed. I could not believe it. I mean, it was right there, plain as day. You can see the pointed ear, you can see its eye and its nose, and it was unbelievable. And I sent it to him. I said, "Do you see that?" He said, "Yeah, I see that plain as day." He's like, "What is that?" I said, "That's a Dogman."
Yeah. Wow, that's wild, because there's so many different types of Dogmen, and I've heard of just about people experiencing every single type that there are, and the pit bull one is kind of a new one, but I've heard of people experiencing that before. I've heard at least 2 different people other than yourself. So you're the third person that has had an encounter with one that
Well,
actually
I
looks
never
like a
saw it.
pit bull.
I never saw it. I heard it following us. You know,
Oh,
I
you
could hear
heard?
bipedal footsteps behind us, but I turned around and I was not expecting to have a photograph of this thing. I was not. I was just hoping and lucking up and getting a picture, but I did. I did, and I guess I'm lucky. Or these things
Oh my
really
God.
like me.
You are. Okay, well, let me show the audience. For people who are not super familiar with the different types of dogmen, there are several types of dogmen. Okay, and the ones that you hear about the most are more like the canine variant 3 and the canine variant 2. I hear about those quite a bit. And on Thursday night, I did do a show with my buddy Robbie. We were exploring the beasts of 7 shoots, and that actually looks kind of like a Sasquatch with a long snout, a Gugway type.
Good way,
And
yeah.
yeah, so that's and there's just so many different types. There's so much that we don't know about these things. Okay, we don't know exactly what all we got out there. Now, can I show this picture that you sent me? I
Yes,
don't know if this is the same
absolutely.
picture.
I hope
Okay,
it may be.
okay, it's
Yes,
that one.
that is it. Yep, that's
Okay,
it.
okay. So if you look closely at this picture, y'all, right down the middle, right here. Let's see, about right
Look,
here where my finger
yeah,
is. Look in the middle, right there,
yeah.
by my
It's like
finger.
it's dead in the middle of the picture. Like you look where that tree is falling over, up and to the left.
Yes, there's
I mean,
something looking through the trees.
I've got
Okay,
it posted on my YouTube channel, so if you want to check that out, it's on my YouTube channel, Dogman on Forks of the River WMA.
okay. Yeah, I mean, when you sent me that, I thought, man, that is pretty legit right there. I mean, I can see it does look like it looks like
Mm-hmm.
a pit bull or a dog or something.
Well, whatever
Dog
was
man.
follow, it was bipedal, and there was not 4
Yeah.
legs. It was bipedal.
Wow, that's wild. That's really cool. Okay, so
That was weird.
uh-oh, you
That
just
was
fell.
I don't. My dog being nosy.
Your nosy. Speaking of nosies, yes, like a blue nose pit. Yes, I used to have a red nose actually pit. Uh, but yeah. So you actually got that from? Was it a back camera that you had on? That
No, I wasn't. That
no.
wasn't a back trail camera. I was turkey hunting. Researching was the last thing on my mind because that was the first time I had been turkey hunting since the spring of 2020. So, I was going out turkey hunting, and, if I had an experience of some sort, I was going to have it. So, we were being followed. And when he said it, that's when that was my cue, to take some pictures behind me. And there it was. I
Oh
could not
man.
believe it.
Well, you always wonder, like when you're out in the woods and stuff, you do wonder, like what's stalking you and what's following you. What is going to poke its head out when you're not looking?
Exactly
Okay.
right. And that's what Scott Carpenter was able to accomplish.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Getting some fantastic evidence that way, because in my experience, when I'm out in the woods, the more equipment we have and the more pictures you take, the less likely we're going to have an experience with a Bigfoot.
Exactly right.
Yeah. But if they think you don't have a camera and you're walking this way, but you got a camera on your back, that's genius, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I kind of try and hide it a little bit, like I'll put a jacket or something around it to kind of hide it a little bit more. So that's something that Scott didn't do. He had like a mount on his backpack, so I kind of conceal mine a little bit more.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating. Oh my gosh. Okay, so you had this one dogman encounter. Well, you've had 2 dogman encounters. Tell me about the other one.
So that happened January 29th of this year. So I think I'm going to go to my normal research area. This is actually the location that Scott Carpenter stopped doing his field research. He only went in this location once, and he never did field research ever again. So I think I'm going to go to that area, which I've been in that area for 7 months now. So I ended up going to this new location that I had found. I looked on the maps, and I was like, okay, this hiking trail goes all the way up the mountain, so we'll give it a shot and see what it looks like, see if there's anything presentable enough for me to start researching here. So I go to this first location. It's a little bit lower down on the mountain, and I get out, and I'm walking along this trail, and it's not very well maintained. by the park services. It's all overgrown and stuff, and there was a bunch of trash and stuff, trash cans and stuff. I don't know how they got there, which was really weird to me. So I find this asterisk out of trees. You know, there's this asterisk broken. It was, the trees were broken, and they made an asterisk. So I was just like, holy crap. I was like, well, that's them. I mean, what's the odds of trees breaking and making a perfect asterisk? So I'm walking along through there, and I'm finding like branches and stuff that are broken and balanced, and I'm still walking along through there, and then eventually I find 2 rock stacks of 3 giant rocks. I'm talking these rocks were like that big, and they were just stacks of 3 right on top of the other ones. And I was like, well, you know, I'm not very stout, but I couldn't probably pick those up. So I was like, that could be a possibility. And I was like, okay, this place is all right. You know, I'm gonna go further up the mountain. So I go back to the truck. I head further up this road that goes further up the mountain to this other hiking trail, and there's a campground close by. So I get out of the truck and I hit this mountain trail. So I get to hiking along up through there. I cross this first bridge, and it's a old woody rinkety dink bridge made out of a tree. So I'm going along up through there, and I cross another woody rinkety dink bridge, and then I cross another woody rinkety dink bridge. So then I go back up the mountain a little bit on this ridge, and then I drop back down, and I come across this culvert, and I go up a hill, and then the trail winds off. The trail to the left went up the mountain. The trail to the right wasn't maintained by park services. So I said, I'm not going to fool with that trail. Don't want to do it. I said, I'm going to stay on the main trail. I'm new to this area. And, you know, if I see something, I'm just going to go off trail and look at it. So I'm hiking on up through there, and I see a game trail that cuts across the trail. And I'm like, okay. And then I got to looking, and I seen where a tree was broken freshly. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go look at that. So I'll go on this game trail, and I'm walking over through there, and I see a twist break about 8.5 foot tall. I mean, I'm 6'6", and I could reach up, and it was a good foot taller than where my hand could reach. I mean, it was twisted and broken, and I was looking, and I was like, well, wind didn't do this, you know, because something took its hands and twisted it. You know, you could see the fibers and everything from where it was twisted and bent. So I'm sitting there, and I'm looking, and I see another twist break. And it was twisted and broken and facing up the mountain. The other one was twisted and broken facing down the mountain. But that other one was about 10 foot off the ground. It was way up there. And I was like, okay. I was getting excited. I was like, these are fresh breaks. I'm going to have a Bigfoot encounter. That's what it was. I was excited because these were fresh breaks. I was like, man, I'm going to have another encounter. So I go back to the main trail, and I'm walking on up through there. And I come to a curve in the trail. But before I get to this curve, I checked my phone. I had 30% battery. And, you know, I was trying to send my location to my wife because I didn't tell her I was going to this location. And I was trying to find the satellite, and I couldn't find the satellite for my location to send. And I was like, well, okay. And so I'm get around this curve, and I'm going up, and I checked my phone again. It said 10% battery, and it shut off. So it's like, okay, this is great. And by this point, it's starting to snow. It's getting cold. I packed light. I just had a hoodie on, blue jeans, and my muck boots. And I was like, it's time to go. So this was about 5:30 in the evening. So I come back around the curve in this trail, and I get in this straightaway. And I didn't get 15, 20 yards after coming around this curve, and I heard something behind me moving. And I was like, all right, this is it. I'm going to stop right here dead in my tracks. I'm going to turn, and it's going to be there. And I said, it's going to be a Bigfoot most likely. Boy, was I wrong. I stopped, I turned, and I locked eyes on it. And it was just giant brown wolf with the brightest yellow eyes I had ever seen. It's laying flat on the ground. And I was like, oh shit, pardon my French, because I knew instantly what it was I was looking at. You know, I'd heard the stories, you know, I had listened to Dogman encounters a little bit, and I was just like, oh my God, this is really happening. And this thing pushes itself up off the ground with its arms. And it takes 3 steps, and it's 15 yards away from me. Now, This thing's got an arm propped up on the tree, and it's got another arm propped out, like playing
You're
with
saying
it.
arms. Wait, okay. So you're saying arms. You're not saying like legs and paws. You're saying like instead of 4 legs, they had arms.
Yeah.
Okay, with hands,
Yeah.
fingers.
Very.
Okay.
They were very raccoon-like.
Oh wow, that's what I hear. Okay, I have
So
not seen a dog man yet. Okay, but that's the way everybody describes them. Most people describe them as having raccoon-like hands.
yes, they're very, very
Yeah.
spooky looking. The top of its head, in between its ears, was flat. It had German Shepherd-like ears. The nose was nudged up into the muzzle. The topper half of this thing was super broad. The lower half was thinner, and it had a thick, woolly-like tail, like a fox's. And it had a mane that ran down the back of its neck. But the weirdest thing was, most of these encounters of Dogman, you hear that they have backwards facing legs, but the one I seen had forward facing legs like a human,
Whoa.
and
Oh, that's interesting.
it is engraved in my head, because I'm just sitting here like, that's not right. That's not right. This thing should have backwards facing legs. But I was, it was so spooky looking. It was dark brown and these yellow eyes. And when I looked into this thing's eyes, my life was like flashing in an instant. My wife was going to move on without me. My kids were going to grow up without me. Nobody was going to find me. I was going to be missing 411. So I decided to start backstepping, and then I eventually start running. And this thing is running off the trail chasing me. So I go down the hill and I cross this culvert, and then I go up and I come back down. I cross the first little bridge that was the last one I came in, and then when I crossed that second one, I'm pretty sure that's the one that stopped. I'm not 100% sure, but I wasn't stopping to find out, because let me tell you, I never ran so fast in my life, and let me tell you, I could not sleep. I could not sleep after that, and I about stopped doing this. I about stopped, and then I had people tell me, "No, don't stop." I was like, well, "Okay, I guess." But the Friday, in the same week that this experience happened, my friend, who is now Rick, which I had just met him at the time, we talked over the phone and stuff, and he came down from Virginia. Him and Steven. So we went out, and I showed him this place where I had this encounter with this dog man. And from where it was laying to the tree that it was at was 28 feet, and it took that in 3 steps.
Whoa, that's huge. Okay, that's
Yes,
fast.
yes,
That's
and
great.
so there was claw marks on the tree from where it had its hand propped up on the tree, and I was like, well, its top of its head was about right in there, so that was 8 feet. That's not including the ears. This thing was
Wow.
almost 4 foot across at the shoulders. But here is the strangest thing. We had a compass with us, and that compass was going crazy.
Oh yeah, that's actually one of my teammates was in my chat on Thursday night. Susan was in there, and she was reminding us that whenever we're out in the woods, we're doing our field research. A lot of times the compasses will start going wonky and start spinning like that. And now I don't know why it does that exactly. I mean, it could be
Electromagnetic
natural.
field.
Yeah, it's some kind of glitch in the magnetic field,
Yep,
obviously.
exactly right.
But okay, so with the legs, okay, so I can't get these legs out of my mind right now. Okay, so the legs, that really something that you've pondered over for quite a while, obviously. Some people say that there are werewolves out there too. Do you think that could have been a werewolf?
I think it's a hybrid
Okay.
that our military has cooked up.
Oh, there we go. Okay, now we can go down another rabbit hole. Hey, Susan. Susan's
Yeah,
in the chat.
that's another rabbit hole to go down.
Okay. Well, but it's not. We talk about it all the time here on my channel. Okay, so
I mean,
I'm actually
you
happy
look,
to hear you say that.
you
It's kind of
look,
cool.
you go and look at all these tests during like World War II and all this stuff, trying to make the ultimate human soldier.
Yes.
You mostly heard about the apes, but they did it with like wolves and stuff too.
Oh yeah, they did. Now, hey Adolf. Adolf wants to know what color was the hair.
It
Do
was
you remember
dark.
the color?
Dark brown, dark brown. Like
Dark brown.
it was, it was unbelievable. Like it was a dog man was the last thing on my mind, and I've actually got a still capture of the same dog man from my back trail camera a month prior on December 17th, 2023. So I got to looking and I was like, that's the same one because I've got it on my back trail camera. He's leaning out from around the tree. You can see his pointed ear sitting up on top of his head, and you can see his arm kind of leaning down from in front of him. It's spooky.
Well, Damien knows what's up. Damien said he might have been one of those lab grown fellows. Yeah. I mean, I think that there's so many possibilities. Okay, and I think that there are organic, natural, dogmen, dog-headed men, dogmen, whatever you want to call them, and maybe even werewolves. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
Or if you want to call them organic, but there's also lab grown. I think I think they've had clones made and all sorts of just weird stuff. My gosh, we live in such a weird world right now where anything's possible.
Absolutely, yes. And and that's what I tell anybody, keep an open mind. Anything is possible. So it's more questions than answers, unfortunately. I'm an amateur. I am not going to sit here and claim that I'm an expert because I am not. And anybody that claims that they are, I think they're wrong.
Oh yeah, there's no experts. Listen, I've been doing this for a long time. Not podcasting and live shows. I've been doing this for about 3 years now. But I've been researching for way longer. And there are no experts. And just when you think you got it figured out,
you figure out you don't. Another curveball.
Exactly, because I've seen such a supernatural element to the Bigfoots and to everything out there because we're experiencing orbs. We've got UFOs in the environment. We've got I've had ET show up in my house. Okay, like after I started Bigfoot research, and we started seeing UFOs and stuff.
Well,
okay, so like things just get weird.
Yes, absolutely. So I will say this. Shortly after I started my Bigfoot research, I had paranormal activity start in my house.
Oh.
Had stuff falling, had weird noises. My kids would start having nightmares and they would wake up in the middle of the night, because they used to sleep fine until I started doing my Bigfoot research. And now I've since rebuked that nonsense. So right now, everything is fine and dandy. But that when you go into their home, that's an invitation for them to come into yours. And from where I stand on them, they're the Nephilim descendants, so they coincide with the demonic and paranormal stuff. Because that's the fallen angels. They were evil and all this stuff. So also going into that, I think the UFOs and these aliens, that stuff's demonic too, because you hear some of these abductions, you rebuke that stuff in the name of Jesus and it stops.
I can't disagree with you at this point. Okay, like I have to stay open to all the possibilities because people have always asked me from the beginning, do you think that aliens are demonic? And I used to say no, but now I don't know. I just don't know.
Well,
I think that they could be.
I will say this, Tucker Carlson had this document and it said that UFOs are demonic and they come from the ocean.
Well, I think that they come from this earth, like inside the earth for sure. And here's the thing, like if you go back and watch my shows from the very beginning, I've always thought that they came from outer space. Okay. Now, and I'm sure there's been a progression in my research and everything. You can see it online if you go to my shows and go back and watch. You can see like I've changed my mind, and you as a researcher you have to be able to change your mind sometimes and admit that like maybe things are not what you thought they were.
Exactly right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was me before I actually started researching. I thought they were an ape. And that's what I thought they were for 3 years after that encounter until I started researching and I started connecting the dots. Because I actually made a cross out of sticks and I placed it on one of their structures and they broke it.
Oh, really?
So these things know who Jesus and God are. They know that they are an abomination in God's image. And I think that some of them have a watcher status, so to speak. They're maybe trying to gain redemption under God, but, they can't.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it could be. I mean, there's so many different angles to it, but there are a lot of people who do believe exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say either way? I mean, we really
Exactly.
just don't know.
Yeah,
But and I've heard people say, like, when they're having an ET experience, they think, there's an ET in their room, an extraterrestrial, an alien of some sort, that they rebuke it in the name of Jesus Christ. Okay. And that makes it go away. All right. Now I've heard that. And also, I've also heard that people at these underground bases, like people in the secret space programs and people working at the deep underground military bases, are told, like, they have to sign a contract that says you cannot say Jesus Christ.
I believe it.
You can't. They won't let them because, and it has something to do with whatever's down there.
And I think I definitely think it's the fallen angels because they're chained up right now. So whenever it's their time to come out, that's what it'll be.
Yes, I mean, it could be. That's that's why I like hearing every perspective to all this, because I just did a show not too long ago about the giants. This is alleged that there are giants, the Nephilim, basically. Some giants are in stasis chambers all over the world, and
Well,
they're
you look at
waking up
that
right now.
Andrew Dawson case.
Oh yeah, is that
That?
the guy who's filmed the giant and then he died? Yeah, he got followed.
Mm-hmm.
Makes you wonder why are these things so hidden from us?
Because
Everything's hidden.
quite frankly, I think, the Bible, it would be true. And those that are against the Bible would lose their mind.
Man, wow. Well, it's something to ponder, okay, and it's food for thought. And yeah, I mean, listen, when I saw some ETs, I've seen so many weird things. Like, I wasn't shocked, okay, when it happened to me, but I can imagine whatever you can do to make something work, I do it. Okay. And if invoking the name of Jesus, makes them go away, I'd tell everybody do it. Okay. Because it's not a pleasant experience. I don't think that I had a bad experience, but I also don't think it was good.
Right. Yeah. I have not had an experience like that, and I hope I don't. But I know there's power in the name, and I know that I've got a good guardian angel over me. So.
Yeah, Vic Kumar, thank you so much for that super sticker. Says, I have just seen 5 Bigfoot and at least 2 little people at my son's rugby match. Listen, I played rugby too, okay, and I played against some Bigfoots personally, okay, and yeah, 2 little people. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
You never know what you're gonna run into at a rugby match. Okay,
Yeah.
that's all. That's all I'm gonna say. I know I played it. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. But hey, I mean, people and people are having these experiences all over the world. I mean, we live in such a cryptid rich part of the country. We're down in the South.
Appalachia.
Yeah, Appalachia. And so, and I do most of my research. I do a lot of it in the Appalachian Mountains up in North Georgia. And you actually have gone over, I think you've done some research with some of the guys I met at the Georgia Bigfoot conference.
Yes.
George, and oh yeah, Tim Dills and George Lunsford and
Robert Effler.
Robert. That's right, Robert. I was trying to remember their names. Yes, Robert. I remember them. They're so cool. Such cool dudes.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Oh, well, Nantahala was unbelievable. Tim took us into that place. We put up trail cameras and we heard stuff, and I've got 2 videos uploaded right now from that outing. Going to have the 3rd video posted tomorrow or Monday, and it was unbelievable. We found tracks. We found a trackway with an 8-foot stride in between each track. There was 3 perfect tracks, and we found the 8-foot stride in between each tracks. And Tim, I mean, he knows his stuff. He's been doing this for a while, and he was showing me, like, on these trees, there would be like nail marks on the trees from where the Sasquatch had been rubbing their nails across. I mean, you could see like 5 perfect lines on these trees from where they've been dragging their nails across. And then we found a hunting blind, and I got in that thing, and let me tell you, it stunk so bad I was dry heaving. I was about to throw up, and I mean, it's going to be in part 3 of the video, so that'll be a good laugh for everybody. And everybody, George and Tim's just laughing at me, and we cut up and have a good time, and it's great. They've kind of taken me under their wing. I'm the rookie of the group, so I'm just very fortunate and blessed to have made the friends that I've had. Even if I've not met y'all like personally yet, doing this, I consider you a friend now. So I mean, we'll always be in touch, and that's how I am. I'm
Me
I'm
too.
I'm a people person, so.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. And I met all them up at like I said, the Georgia Bigfoot conference. And I hit it off with all of them. I think they're amazing. I've even had George on my show at Space Out Radio before. And we just had a good old time talking. And we can
Oh
really
yeah.
relate. I had a really good time. I know what is Tim with Dirty South Squatching, right? I remember
Yep.
because he gave me a sticker. Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I made George's first encounter happen with a Bigfoot.
Did you? Tell me about it.
So January 7th, we made us a little group chat on Facebook, and we've talked. I was telling them about this place because I was a guest on their podcast, North Carolina Investigates. So I told them what all was going on in here. So I was like, "Y'all want to come up and go out?" And he's like, "Yeah." So George, Robert, and Robert's wife, Michelle, they came up January 7th. Or we meet up and we go out to this location in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And, I'm showing them a bunch of the stuff that I'd found, these X structures, these arches and twist breaks and different things. And along with this, we were finding new signs. We found hunting blinds. There's a perfect hunting blind, that people would die for to have because it was right on like a corner of an intersection of a game trail, and George stood up in it. I mean, it was huge. So we're still walking around there and we're finding more stuff. And we get to walking further up the trail and we find a dogman track that's 5 inches long and like 5.5 inches wide. It was huge. And we're still walking around and looking, and we're working our way back. And I nudged George on the shoulder. I said, "Let's go down this holler right here, and then we'll come out down in this flat, and we'll be in between these two hills." And I said, "We'll cut up this hill and work our way back around to the trail." He said, "All right." So we're going down through there. I'm leading the way, and we ended up not staying down that holler. We kind of stayed up on the hill, so we'd be down above this flat. So we're working our way around, and this valley across from hill to hill wasn't very far, probably about 20 yards. And we're walking across through there, and I catch movement out of the corner of my eye. And I wasn't going to say anything for certain until it moved. Well, I seen it start moving through the laurels, and if you know what the laurels are like, those are thick stuff. So I seen it start to move. I stopped dead in my tracks and I said, "George, there he is." He said, "Where?" I said, "Over there. He just went behind that tree." I said, "He's leaning out looking at us right now." He said, "Harley, that's a shadow." I said, "George, that's not a shadow. I just seen it move." I said, "Stand right here." I said, "I'm going to walk towards it." Jessica, I didn't walk 12, 14 feet, and I stepped on a branch, and it sounded like a shotgun going off. And that Bigfoot leaned up, grabbed a hold of the tree, and was leaning out to look for me because it couldn't see me. Next thing I know, I heard George say, pardon my French, "Oh shit." And he comes running past me, and I'm just like, I guess we're chasing this thing. And we get up there to the tree where he's at. And right there at the base of the tree, and like the dirt and moss, you could see three perfect toes, but the pinky toe was slightly there, and the big toe was slightly there. And we were standing out there, and there was a branch that was broke, and we figured he was 8.5 feet tall. We named him Alfalfa off of Little Rascals because the top of where his hair was wet from the sleet and rain, it was sticking up, so we named him Alfalfa.
That's cute. Oh my gosh, but that sounds a lot. It sounds like y'all have a lot of fun out there, actually. And
It is.
you know what? That's what I found is like when we're out there having fun and we're not really getting too. We never get too serious.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
And it's when you get too serious, I think they're more likely to come out and be curious about you when you're having fun.
Yes,
And I,
exactly. They're
yeah,
curious. They love people laughing. When you hear most of the time they'll like sit and watch children. They're just curious creatures. They're just that's how their nature is. They're curious. They're watching. And it's their nature.
it is. It is. Patrick Noble, thank you so much for that super sticker. He says, "Keep up the good work, Harley, and good show, Jessica." Thank you,
Thank you,
Patrick.
Patrick.
That's sweet.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, we do appreciate you. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out why that deer blind smells so bad. Just kidding.
Them.
What is going on? Do you think it was a Bigfoot? Because I've heard that they've marked their territory.
I think they do it
The
like a
Dogman
skunk.
too.
I
It
think
was
they
a
do it like
skunk.
a skunk. You know how
Yeah.
like skunk like spray. You know, I think they just do it whenever. You know, like they kind of mint that smell. But let me tell you, I could taste it. It was so bad. It was horrible. I about vomited. Like it's on the video. Like I almost vomit. Like it's so bad.
Oh my God, there's nothing worse than that. Hopefully it wasn't like sultry, steamy, hot day too. Oh God.
It was actually not too bad. It was raining a little bit, so it really wasn't too bad. Being under
Oh
the
my gosh.
canopy and all that stuff, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah. Man, yeah, I'd love to go out and do some Bigfooting with all y'all. That sounds like a lot of fun. I mean,
Oh,
we have a pretty good time too. You know, my team, we go out pretty often, and I've been going out with other teams lately too. The Cryptid Warfare guys. I've gone on a couple of investigations with them, which is not my normal team, but I have a lot of fun with them. Okay,
oh yeah,
and that's what it's all about. It's we're out there doing research. Okay, but we're also having fun. And a lot of times
exactly.
we're not always going to come across a Bigfoot. We're not always going to come across a Dogman, but it's a matter of getting out there and being boots on the ground. If worse comes to worse, at least we had a good camping trip.
Exactly right. Yes, you know, and I don't have an encounter every time. You know, I'll have some sort of experience, whether I hear the samurai chatter or I hear a knock or a whistle or something along those lines. You know, but I don't have a visual encounter every time that I go. So it's wild. It's wild stuff, and I never imagined that I would be doing this, but I have such a huge passion for it.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Now, Little Twisted said they believe in source. Okay, so I've actually kind of talked about this with the Bigfoots and some of the cryptids. Like, is there a spiritual side to them? I mean, you believe that they're Nephilim, right? What is your thought on that?
Yeah,
Like, could they be spiritual?
yeah, I think they can 100% physically be here and then 100% not be here. I've heard stories, of them just vanishing, or people finding tracks that just disappear in the middle of an open field. There is a logical explanation for that, but yet
Yeah.
they still go with, oh, they're an ape or something like that, and they don't document most of the cases in the BFRO if there's like a UFO or anything like that mentioned in it because, oh, they're an ape.
Yeah. Well, see, I right off the bat I right off the bat had supernatural experiences out in the field. Okay, when it came to Bigfoot, and I do believe that there is some sort of X factor. Okay, that's the way that my team describes it. We say it's the X factor when it comes to Bigfoot. Now, do we know what that X factor is exactly? No. Okay, but we have seen weird things where they do just disappear into thin air. You can hear them walking, but you don't see them, and they're right beside you, and things like that. Just things that just don't make sense. And the more we think we know, the less we end up knowing about
Exactly.
it.
And I will say this. I think there's truth in a lot of the science fiction movies. How like the predators can cloak from the predator movies. I've heard some Bigfoot stories like that. And you look at these depictions of werewolves in movies, that's spot on of the dog man, I mean there's truth in the science fiction, I believe that 100%. It's wild stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, I've heard somebody say that one of those werewolf movies, The Howling. And now I know I've had plenty of people say there's no way that's real. But there's one guy, that Bill Schnoebelen guy that I talk about all the time. I need to get him on my show. He did some pretty dark stuff back in the day, and he's a rabbi today. I think he's a priest, a rabbi,
Oh.
and he was part of the Church of the Brotherhood of Satan at some point. And so,
Wow.
I like listening to things like this to get a perspective on, like, because this is unfortunately it's just part of our reality. There's people out there that do join cults and do join things like that.
Yeah,
And so
exactly.
he was talking about the Howling, and he said that he was talking about how people can transform into werewolves, and like humans can transform into werewolves. And he said that there was a part of that movie that actually they filmed a real transformation of a human turning into a werewolf. he said that he thought that that might be real, and I was like, man, that would be kind of cool if it was. If that was
Yeah,
real. It's terrifying.
I personally think that werewolf, all that stuff came from the dog man. Somebody's seen a man that looks like a wolf. That man turned into a wolf. And that's just my honest personal opinion on that.
Yeah. Well, we don't like to think that things are watching us and researching us, but they are.
Yeah,
Okay, they
exactly
are.
right. Your hair starts sticking up.
Yeah.
That's your sign right there that something's off. And when the woods goes dead quiet and you can hear a pin drop, yeah,
Yeah.
that is a very uneasy feeling.
Yes, I've been there. I've been there plenty of times, and yeah, I mean, you can just feel it. The energy shifts out there. I
Oh
mean, the
yes,
entire environment shifts, and
it's like a
there's
different world.
yeah, yeah. There's another time because I do spend a lot of time out in the woods, and one of the most creepy kind of times because I don't get creeped out too easily. Okay, but it's always at dusk. Okay, right when the sun has set and it's not completely dark yet. There's like and that's when the energy starts to shift right then. And it doesn't matter where I'm at, if I'm in Alabama, if I'm in Tennessee, if I'm in Georgia, Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, wherever, New York, wherever I'm at, it's it's always the same. And it's just a really eerie feeling. It's not my favorite feeling. Okay. But I'm always pretty much like, it's almost like that's the switch
Yeah,
that's getting me
exactly.
prepared to like the wildness that's going to happen that night.
I'll tell you, and I have the same feeling. Like I can tell when it's about to get real. And like I think personally, I have a higher EMF, than other people, because everybody has their own electromagnetic field, and a lot of people's are different, higher, lower, whatever the case may be, and we're just prone to that kind of stuff. And plus, when you have these experiences, when these things allow you to see them, that opens your eyes to a whole new world.
Yes, absolutely. I like that you said that because they do allow us to see them. And I had a conversation with someone the other day about this. I can't remember if it was Dennis. I don't know if it was Dennis. Dennis is in the chat. Hey, Dennis. But they're talking about how you have to slow down. Okay. Like they have to
Yeah.
slow down to let us see them. Okay. Because we're vibrating different than the cryptids out there. We're all
Yes.
vibrating. And that's what you're alluding to there is we're all vibrating on a different frequency.
Spectrum. Yeah, we're on different
Yeah.
spectrum, different frequency. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's kind of like they're allowing us to see them, and I do feel like there's no coincidences.
There is
Okay. And
no such thing as a coincidence.
no, because if I had not had all the encounters that I've had, I wouldn't be sitting here talking about this with the world and talking with you right now.
Exactly right. Absolutely, 100%. If I didn't go deer hunting this past Thanksgiving, I would not be doing this. I would
Do you
not.
still do you still hunt, or do you get out there pretty often?
After this past Thanksgiving, when I went back hunting, and this past spring I went turkey hunting. So I'm back out hunting and fishing. And I go out hiking whenever I can. I get as much research in as I can. Because you can't do it from the couch. So
You
you
can't.
have to get out there. And look, listen, and observe. Sit there for hours on end if you have to.
Yeah.
Because you don't go out there hooting and hollering and all that stuff. You have to let them come to you.
Oh yeah, you do. That's the best advice too. Yeah, they will come to you too. A lot of times we just go out there and just go camping and go sit around a campfire at night. We have more activity in our base camp than we do for the people that are out there wandering the woods at night when we're
Exactly.
researching.
Yep. When it thins down, and there's just one or two individuals around there, I will say this, like if it's just one or two people, that's definitely a higher odds of, getting a visual on them. But if you go out there with like a whole bunch of people, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, I guess it all kind of depends. I guess it kind of depends, but yeah, it's when you're just not paying attention, you're having fun. That's when a rock will get lobbed at you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly
don't pay
right.
attention to
Absolutely.
them. Yeah, just don't pay attention, and you'll have an encounter. That's how it usually works.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You just don't overstay your welcome. That it's their home. You respect it. How people you would want people to come in your home. You would want them to respect it. So you need whenever you go into their home, you have to respect them.
That's right. And not to have any fear. Okay.
Yeah,
And
don't
and I
show
know,
fear. Yeah, you don't
don't
show
show
fear.
fear. That's right. I like to think that I have just as much right to be in those woods as they do.
Yeah,
Okay. And so that's the mindset that I get in when I go into the woods, is that I have just as much right as anything else to be in here as they have.
yeah,
Okay. And I think that that's an important factor, is when you don't let off fear, like,
yeah,
oh God, I'm so scared something's going to poke its head out of the trees. Please poke your head out of the trees. I
yeah,
want to see you.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, ultimately, in the end, God made these creatures the same way that He made us. So, and then ultimately, that's the
Right.
end game. We all have as much room to be in the woods as they do.
That's right. Hey, Eric. Yes, we do. So being a hunter, have you ever come across, and you're out in the woods a lot, have you ever come across any weird tracks that you just couldn't explain? Of some animal you didn't know what it was?
Actually, just if not before, I got into Bigfoot and all that stuff, but just a couple weeks ago, I found a track that has me completely puzzled. It's a three-toed track. Um,
Is that what you
actually,
sent me?
did I send it to you?
Is it this one?
Yes,
Let
that
me
is
take this
it.
comment down.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was going to ask you about this. Okay.
Yep, yep.
Hope you don't mind me showing it.
That's a
Okay.
that's a three-toed track from a unknown critter. I'm still not 100% sure what it is. My first initial thought was a dog man, but then I got to looking into it more, and I started asking around. I asked my good friend Daryl Denton. I was like, "Do you know what this could be?" He said, "That's not a dog man," because that's what I asked. I asked if that's a dog man track. He said, "That ain't a dog man." I said, "Well, what am I dealing with here?" He said that's what they call a reptilian.
I was going to say it looks like a reptile, right? It looks like almost like a alligator, but y'all don't have alligators in Tennessee, do you?
Lord, no, not in the Great Smoky Mountains.
Y'all don't have alligators up there, I don't think. I mean, we have alligators down in South Georgia for sure, but they don't really come up this high north. Like I'm actually in northwest Georgia, like this area, like North
There's
Georgia.
alligators in like
So,
southern, middle, and west Tennessee, but that's just very rarely. They come up through the Mississippi River and whatnot. That's out in like west and middle Tennessee. Now, not out here yet.
oh yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it's odd. I hear about reptilian sightings. South Carolina has the lizard man.
That skateboard
Okay.
swamp.
Yeah, but I mean that's kind of small to be like a lizard-sized man, like a reptilian. But unless it was on, it had the digigrade type legs, and it was just the pad of his ball of his foot. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Pull it back
Well,
up.
there's a comment right there that says that's a ostrich or an emu. Well, unless
Oh,
somebody turned a bunch of them loose in the national park, I don't know.
oh, so that's it. Do you do a lot of your research at national parks?
Great Smoky Mountains National Park.
Yeah.
That's the only place that I go. Because that's the place that Scott did it. And I'm essentially carrying on the torch for him.
Oh, okay. Cryptidville just said there have been alligators seen in western Tennessee and Kentucky.
Yep, that's that. They say
Man,
they need to stay on that end of the country, and we'll be fine.
stay on that end.
Yeah,
Stay over
no,
there. I know.
yeah,
We
I
we
don't
don't
want them over here.
we don't need anything else, right? Over
Oh,
there, you got enough to contend with as it is,
yeah, I reckon.
for
Well,
sure.
this comment right here. If
Which
you
one?
got raptor on tiptoes.
A raptor on tiptoes could be.
Well, if that's a turkey,
I'm
that's a
trying to
big
find them.
turkey. Says
Oh
somebody
my
said
gosh.
big turkey. Oh,
Hey, that's
thank you,
BMR.
BMR.
Thank you,
There's my
BMR.
boy,
I appreciate
Bigfoot
that.
Mystery
Thanks.
Rob.
Yeah, thank you, BMR, for that super sticker. That's awesome. We appreciate that. Um, okay, yes, P. Yeah, so the P. Okay, marking territory and things like that. So you've come across that with the deer blind. I've heard about that from, I think it was either Brian Bowden or Al Santoriga. I think it was Brian. He had a case where I think a dogman had urinated on his fence. Okay. And it marked their territory. So if we smell that urine smell, Or could it have been like deer pee too? Don't hunters put deer pee all over them? I'm just asking.
Yeah. Well, not
Okay.
necessarily on you. You can put cover scent on you. I don't spray dope pee on me. I just spray it up in the air, and let the air take it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the last thing I want to do is spray pee on me at all. So
No,
sorry.
no,
Okay.
dope pee is
Never
not a
deal with
very
it.
pleasant
No,
smell, but it
it
ain't
doesn't
got
seem
nothing.
pleasant.
It ain't got nothing on Bigfoot. They
Yeah.
stink. They stink so bad. Oof.
Okay. Well, the reptilian thing though. Okay, so let's look at it this way. Like it could, if it were a reptilian print, let's just say, because it
Yeah.
does look reptilian. You guys have a lot of caves up there. Now, have you explored the caves in Tennessee?
I ain't going into no cave. You can't get me to go in there because listen to this. Last week, actually, my daughter's dad, their stepdaughters, their dad was out fishing, and he had the feeling he was being watched, and he seen a person go behind a tree. Now this person was naked and dirty and all this stuff. So he goes on down the creek a little bit more, and this person follows him. And he's standing there fishing. He turns around and look, and right there in the open is this feral person standing there watching him fish. And he just takes off and he's running, and he is traumatized. Like I've seen him since the first time since last week, and he still gets big eyed when he's talking about seeing this feral person. He's seen something.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
I I, I keep wanting to do another show on feral people. I think that it's important for us to talk about. And I did bring up we did bring up feral people. I think on my Gugway show that we just did on Thursday night, we were talking about this actually Smoky Mountains feral people. Okay, and that's where you're at. Uh, there is because I think Robbie had mentioned that they're not. He was like, well, I don't know how dangerous they could be, and I was like, well, never underestimate the power of someone who lives in the woods,
Exactly.
lives in the forest, off the land, and I mean, they're going to be like almost like animalistic in a way. Like, and by that I mean like their senses are going to be off the charts,
Yes, absolutely.
right? And their
Absolutely.
strength too, probably.
Hmm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
now,
And he's
also,
like,
the
he was
blind, I
telling
saw the
me,
birds have
he was
eyes.
telling, he was telling me earlier. He's like, I want to go out and look for that thing. I said, listen. I said, if there's one, there's going to be more than one. I said, that's how every feral person story works. There's one, and then there's like five others.
Oh yeah.
So I actually
Wow.
heard on TikTok today, Supernatural Sleuth. He's a good friend of mine from Kentucky. He posted a video of an account from a park ranger in straight up the mountain from my research area at a tower. Um, he goes up there and he's checking this tower to make sure it's good, and it is. And I'm just going to brief summary this, and I can send it to you if you want to listen to it. But he's working his way back down, and he makes it a majority of the way back from this checking on this tower. Well, all of a sudden he hears what sounds like people talking and footsteps coming towards him. Well, he stops and he looks and he sees two hikers coming towards him. And he says park ranger, and of course they're going to run to him. And they told him what was going on. They said they were up there in the mountains for a couple of days, and on the first night they camped on the trail, and they said they heard what sounded like people talking and moving around through their camp. They woke up and they found some stuff missing. Well, they moved spots on the trail. Well, that night came around, it happened again. Well, they decided to pack up and leave. Well, on their way out, they heard what sounded like people talking and footsteps, but they couldn't see anybody. And so that's when they started running and they come across this park ranger. Well, he told them which way to go to get out of there, and they did. And he just stood there and he was working his way out. He heard what sounded like people talking and footsteps, and he turned to look. Nothing was there. And he's staying on this trail, and then there's a little service road that cut down to where his truck was parked. So he's working his way down through there, and he gets to the point where he can eventually see his truck. His truck door is open. So he tries to work his way around them and see what's going on inside of his truck. Well, he gets to the point to where he can see inside of his truck, and he sees a naked person in his truck that's dirty, just rummaging around through stuff and throwing things.
Okay, so he didn't know if this guy was on alcohol or drugs or whatever. So he was being careful. He had his gun on a service weapon, and he kept working his way closer towards him. Well, he gets closer to the truck, and he's observing this person, and he announces himself park ranger, and this thing in one fluid motion turned and came out of the truck, pushed him down, held him down, and took off to the woods. And well, he chases off after it, and he's staying in touch with his supervisor. And so he goes into the woods chasing after this thing for about 100 yards, and it's already dark at this point. And he eventually loses sight, and he gives up. But he stops, and he listens, and he hears footsteps all around him, and like voices from all around him. And so he starts to work his way back towards his truck because he's getting freaked out. And he radios to the station. He's letting them know what's going on. And the supervisor tells him, get out of there now. He said, I'm coming to you. So he gets out of there and gets in his truck. And he has to turn his truck around a couple of times. But when he turned around his truck that second to last time, he seen not one, but 6 feral people naked standing there watching him, all dirty. And they were standing there watching him. And he got out of there. And he got to the point to where he met his supervisor. His supervisor got out of his truck and came to sit in the truck with this park ranger. And he said, what did they take? He said, nothing. He said, they ate a little bit of my food. And he said, listen, he said, if you talk about this to anyone, he said, I will not take up for it. He said, I will not recognize it. He said, we will do nothing for you. And they said something along the lines of my higher ups know that these things and these other creatures are out here, and you can't dismiss any of these cases.
Oh my God, that's so dangerous. That's so dangerous. Well, there's that little boy that disappeared.
In Case Cove.
That's right. Okay,
Dennis
that happened.
Martin.
That's right, Dennis Martin. And now, was that blamed on a feral person or a Sasquatch? It was like a wild man, right?
I think it was a feral person. But I heard a story, too, that somebody seen a bear-like creature take him. Which, I mean, I think bear-like, ultimately that could have been a dog man, but who's to say for certain? But I hate it I couldn't have imagined being a little boy and being taken by some creature.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, well, okay. Well, there's an account of those park rangers, the higher ups, saying, don't speak a word about this. And I think that happens all too often with the national parks and in these clusters of missing people. Okay, and I know when I was called out to a state park here in Georgia a couple of years ago, it was like a month before the Georgia Guidestones got knocked down, exploded. And it was in that same county.
Oh, wow.
And the park ranger who called me out was friends with a friend of mine. I didn't know him, but he was good friends with a friend, somebody I knew, friend. And she hit me up. He was telling her about what all had been happening. They'd had 9 Bigfoot sightings at that park within a month.
Okay.
And so he didn't know if he was really if they were people really seeing Bigfoot or not, but he really was wanting somebody to come out and check it out. She was like, well, I've got a friend who's a Bigfoot researcher. I'll hit her up. She put us in touch. And a lot of times you hear stuff like that. It's like, well, we'll come out and check it out sometime when we get around to it. Right.
Right.
Well, this is a state park ranger. Right. And I don't get calls from state park rangers very often. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so I FaceTimed with him and I saw that it was legit. And I was like, all right, well, just, but then I was like, well, I got to get a team to come scout it out,
Right, exactly, yeah.
But he called me back like that next week and said there was an emergency. Somebody had died from a Bigfoot. He's like, there's a death that had a relation to Bigfoot.
Holy
so we went out. So we went out there. I don't talk about this very often. I'm not going to name names, okay? But we went out there, and me and 3 of my guys, there were 4 of us that went out there for a weekend. And this guy showed us all around the park and showed us where everything happened. There were stories of a Bigfoot jumping out of a tree, where there were four campers that were hiking to their tent. and something fell down or jumped down from a tree, and two of them saw a 7-foot tall, 8-foot tall Bigfoot, and the two people behind them saw a squirrel in the middle of the night. So it didn't make any sense, right? But see, I've since heard stories about that from other people.
Yeah.
Or some people see a Bigfoot, some people see a squirrel or something little. But we got out there, and the story, we even went to the cabin where this gentleman was supposedly died when a Bigfoot looked in the window one night. He had a heart attack, is what he said. Now, it was really odd because down the way, I did notice this. He told me that the other people were making fun of him there. Okay. And he actually had to write the letter to our governor. He had to write the report with all these sightings up and send it to the governor's office here in Georgia.
Holy
okay.
cow.
And so it was like a joke, but he was taking it seriously. Everybody else was laughing about it, thought it was funny. And at some point, I still to this day don't know exactly what happened, because with this death that happened, this alleged death, he was dead set saying, oh, this guy died because he had a heart attack. Well, then we go to the coroner's office. I have a friend that knows a coroner. They said, no, it was a drug overdose. And it wasn't even a man, it was a female. So it was just really weird. Like, the story was like so different from these two different things. It just didn't make sense. Like, none of it made sense. Now, I don't think he was pulling my chain. Okay. But I mean, is there an active cover-up going on? Yeah, somewhere down the line.
There's plenty of cover-ups happening in this. Let me tell you. I mean, at what point does it stop? I mean, ultimately, the disclosure of these things being out here is not going to happen. Okay, let's look at it this way. It's going to hurt the logging industry, for one. It'll hurt tourism.
Revenue.
Yes.
Revenue.
Yes. You know, what happens if they close down the Great Smoky Mountains National Park? Sevierville, Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, all that loses money.
Money. It's all about money. And so that's why I tell everybody, keep your head on a swivel, protect yourself, and don't let your kids get out of your sight.
Yes,
ever.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And that's one thing. My kids, I don't like them being next to the woods. I get on them. I said, listen, I told y'all how I feel about being close to these woods by yourself. I said, you get your hind ends back around the front.
That's right. Yes. It's
Hey, all it takes is a second. These creatures are quick, and they could happen in an instant.
Yes, and it's not just the creatures. You know, we've documented that portal out in the woods at the meadow, a place that my team researches. I mean, there's a lot of different ways for people to disappear.
You got like on the thermal or?
Yes. Yep.
Oh wow.
We had two of our teammates walked into it and they disappeared. Their heat signatures disappeared, and then they came back. They've actually both passed away since then, and both of the guys. Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I know I've talked about it a lot on my shows and stuff, so I'll tell you about it. Not right now. We talked about it a lot, but yeah, it was out of the place we call the Meadow. We've been doing ongoing investigations and research there for years, and yeah, a lot of high strangeness somewhere in an undisclosed location here in the South.
I got you. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, if you ever want to come up here, I'm sure me and George and Robert would love to have you out with us. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Maybe I'll get Drew to come with us too, man. We'll come up and have a good time.
I've been meaning to get in touch with Drew. He's about 4 hours away from me, so it's a little hard, but
yeah, I'm gonna be. Listen, I'm coming up to Tennessee. I've got 2 trips planned already.
Okay.
To come back up there, so maybe we can. I'll link up sometime.
Yeah.
And yeah, this has been fantastic. Gosh, I just really enjoyed talking to you tonight about your experiences. Yeah, you're going to definitely have to come back, and we've got plenty more we could talk about, I'm sure.
Oh, there's plenty to talk about. And actually, after this, I got something I would like to show you and talk with you about and get your honest opinion on, because you actually just did a podcast about something that correlates with this possibly. I don't know, but I mean, you talked about it, and if George, you know, he's an author and he's wrote all these books on these kinds of stuff, and I just want to maybe get your opinion on this because you just did a podcast about this kind of stuff.
Okay. All right, we'll talk about it. We'll just hold tight after we cut the show, and we'll talk after the show tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And Yeah. Okay. So I've got so many more comments, y'all. I'm so sorry. I haven't gotten to everybody. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been in the chat tonight
Yeah,
and participating in
absolutely.
the chat. And I want to thank everybody for all the super stickers tonight and for all your support. Y'all just it means the world to me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, thank y'all so much. It really does. It makes me feel good that you guys are here supporting us tonight.
Yeah.
And Harley,
They make it possible. They make it possible.
they do for sure, for sure. We've got a lot of field researchers in the chat tonight too. Okay, podcasters,
That's the way it
field
needs to be.
researchers. Yes, absolutely. I see Cryptid in here. He's been putting all your he's been just putting all your links up here the whole show. Thank you, Cryptid.
Thank you. Appreciate you,
Yeah,
kind sir. Appreciate you.
big time. I couldn't do it without y'all for sure. I got some great mods and yeah. So Harley, tell everybody where they can find you. I know Cryptid's been putting your links in the chat. Y'all click the links, but tell people about your YouTube channel and your Facebook page.
Yes, absolutely. My Facebook group, Bigfoot Reports and Data. It's a safe place. You want to come on there, make a post about your encounter. Head over in my Facebook group, make a post about your encounter. There's no ridicule. I don't tolerate any of that stuff because that was the biggest thing for me. And, just come over to my group, have a good time, and just enjoy the comments, having conversations with people. It's a very amazing group that I've created, and I cannot believe that I've accomplished that. I've got a great admin and moderator team on there, and I'm super blessed. And then my YouTube channel is Bigfoot Reports and Data as well. Same name, so it's easier to find me. You can go check it out. I kind of try and do it like Scott Carpenter does, with the back trail camera, and analyzing the footage and all that stuff. But I actually don't have a laptop right now, so I got to get a laptop so I can actually do like the frame by frame process from where I'm hiking and these things are showing themselves. And then, I do the still captures, of course. I show a still capture from the video. And there's, I do lives every now and then, and I have conversations with people that I've taken out, which is mostly George and Robert and Tim. So it's a very good channel. I mean, I'm not trying. I like to think my channel's pretty good.
It's good.
It's all right. I mean, I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers in 2 months, so I'm happy with that. I mean.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. You do have a great channel, and I just recently became a member of your Facebook group, and I love it. You've got a lot of great supporters who are actually in the chat tonight too. I did recognize some names from your group in here tonight.
Yes,
So
and
thank y'all for
I
being
hope
there.
they subscribe, y'all. If y'all are
Thank
from
you.
my crew, hit the subscribe button for Miss Jessica, please.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. It feels good to have fellow boots on the ground field researchers here in the studio with me, and us exchanging ideas and bouncing ideas off each other's heads. You know what I mean?
Exactly right. I'm young. I've got plenty of ideas about all this stuff. I'm an open-minded individual.
Well, and you're also a lineman, okay? And my stepsister's husband, I guess that's my stepbrother-in-law. He's a lineman. Their son's a lineman, and I gotta think a lot of Bigfoots like to run
Power
down
line.
the power lines, right? Like where the power lines go.
Yeah,
Do you ever get stories from work? Do you ever hear anybody talking about that?
Nope.
No.
Nope. Because Bigfoot's not supposed to be a thing. My dad, he worked at the city co-op for 30 years. He actually retired this year, and never heard anything about it. And even if they did see one, they wouldn't talk about it.
I'll be all right. Well, if they find out you're hunting Bigfoot, maybe they'll open up to you one day. Who
I hope
knows?
so. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, you're gonna have to keep me posted on all that for sure,
Yes.
And let me know. You got to keep us posted on your research, and yeah, everybody, please go over to Bigfoot Reports and Data on YouTube and on Facebook, and y'all follow them and subscribe for sure.
Yeah,
Okay?
we'll definitely have a part 2. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Oh no, you're gonna come back, man. This has been a great time tonight, and thank you for spending your Saturday with me.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
much.
Thank you for
For
having
sure.
me.
Well, stay safe out there, man. Got to stay safe and
Yes,
just have
absolutely.
fun. I
Oh,
know y'all
yeah.
are having fun with those guys from North Carolina too.
Oh,
So.
yeah. It's always an adventure with those boys.
It is. It is. All right. Well, everybody in the chat, everybody that's watching right now, you guys have a wonderful night. I know I did address what happened today with President Trump and stuff. That was tragic.
Yeah,
And so,
keep him in your prayers. Yes,
yes,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Our country too. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, yeah, yes. We're in for a wild ride, and when I say stay safe out there, y'all, keep your head on a swivel. I mean it. Okay, I mean it. And protect yourselves and your families, your homes. Okay, and just know we're in for a wild ride. Okay, and yes, God wins though. Okay,
Yes.
always, and
Yes.
we're gonna be all right. Okay,
Yep.
everybody's gonna be. And thank God, whoever did that was a bad shot. Okay, thank God.
Hey, that's what I was saying
Right?
earlier. They got a bad
Oh my
shot.
God. Thank goodness. Okay. But nonetheless, you guys, I love everybody, and I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Despite what happened today, okay, let's keep moving
Overcome it.
forward. Okay. Yes. Pray for our country and pray for everybody and pray for
Stay
everybody
prayed
that's
up.
involved
That's
today.
what I tell everybody. Stay prayed up.
Absolutely. Put on that full armor of God, y'all.
Yes.
And yes, okay. And I'm not going to be at Spaced Out Radio tomorrow night, y'all. I'm going to be I'm going down to Florida this week for the Full Disclosure Now conference. Again, if you guys wanted to go, and if you want a last minute ticket, it starts Monday. Okay, those are the discount codes to get tickets if y'all want to come hang out with me down in Florida next week. I do speak on Wednesday. I'm giving a big old presentation, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so all right. Well, Harley, thanks again for being here. It was awesome. Stick around. I'll talk to you after the show. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you,
otherwise,
everybody.
yeah. Thank y'all so much, and y'all have a great night. I will be back. I'll probably have some shows for y'all next week. Okay. I may not be live, but you'll have some good shows. All right, and I'll be back next weekend. All right, Harley. Have a great night, and I'll see y'all
Alrighty, you
soon.
too.
Take care, everybody. All right. Bye, y'all.